World War II started out between the United States and the Japanese. The United States got dragged into the war when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. There was only one reason that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, as they intended to destroy important American fleet units, thereby preventing the Pacific Fleet from interfering with the Japanese conquest of the Dutch East Indies and Malaya, as well as to enable Japan to conquer Southeast Asia without interference. Then the United States declared war on the Japanese, and this forced Japan's Axis allies, including Nazi Germany, to declare war on the United States 3 days after the attack, bringing the United States into World War II. The war started December 10th, 1941, and lasted all the way until August 1945. This war was very serious, and there was a lot of battling between the two countries over the water. This was a very serious battle, because most of the war was over the water and not on land. Multiple people fought in this water war. There was over 100,000 people that died or went missing during the war. Another 200,000 plus were injured during this war. This making the battle very deadly and a very bloody war in general. This war was mostly just ships and planes. This is because none of the battles was on land. The Japanese had a lot of different tactics compared to the United States. The Japanese used techniques like the kamikaze pilots. These were planes from the Japanese that would commit suicide into a ship, causing structural damage to the ship. This was a hard-fought battle, but in the end, the United States outfought the Japanese. The only problem about the Japanese is they are known to never surrender. This is a very serious deal because the United States knew that they would have to go to a certain extent to win this war against Pearl Harbor. This is when a group called the Manhattan Project came together and created the atomic bomb. In 1939, the research in the creation of the atomic bomb would become known as the Manhattan Project. Scientists around the world worked together in the United States researching uranium and plutonium in hopes of creating a weapon of mass destruction. The atomic bomb had a great significance in the world because it proved that a country could make a weapon so powerful it could wipe out a whole city. This is serious because you never know when a random country could start a nuclear war. The topic of the atomic bomb has been highly questionable throughout the years. Multiple people still don't know whether US should have dropped the bomb. There are multiple interviews about what people saw when experiencing this debatable event. Here's one from a victim 70 years after the bombs were dropped.
I was thrown to the ground and my back burned instantaneously. I felt the ground shaking and I thought I was going to die. As things calmed down, I realized the skin on my left arm, from the shoulder to the tip of my fingers, was trailing down like a rag. I felt no pain. I put my hand behind my back and found my shirt was gone, and something black and slimy was all over my hand.
This next interview is from a woman that is going to talk about what is honestly the worst part of surviving this bombing 70 years after.
I think being survivor is more scary than you get burned the next day you die or something like that.
Why?
Yeah. Because there's nothing left after. Then we have to struggle to live there. You have to keep going, right?
There are multiple things that happened in the creation of the atomic bomb. There were two sides of the bomb. There was a triumph and a tragedy. There are multiple things that were making the creation of the atomic bomb a huge triumph. The creation of the Manhattan Group, a huge group in the United States to make a weapon to end World War II. The Manhattan Project was a research and development undertaken during World War II that produced the world's first nuclear weapons. It was led by the United States with the support of the United Kingdoms and Canada. Oppenheimer was not just using people from the Manhattan Project to create this bomb. He was using previous scientists such as Einstein to help him with the creation of the bomb. So this helps as a true triumph because the United States came together in unity to invent something that was this complicated. They were truly ahead of their time. Nuclear fusion was in the idea when creating the bomb. Obviously, the atomic bomb wasn't fully nuclear fusion because it was more about destruction instead of creation. The atomic bomb brought nuclear fusion into the talk of happening because eventually everywhere in the world will need a new energy source. Along with triumph, there were also many things making this bomb a tragedy. The creation of the bomb made a serious threat to all countries when it came to nuclear weapons. This making countries study more nuclear weapons and being more involved when it came to nuclear weapons. This is a very serious problem now, because countries like North Korea are threatening with their own nuclear weapons. An obvious tragedy of the atomic bomb was the mass destruction it did to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. With these bombs dropped, the amount of people that died or got seriously injured were a very scary number. There was a lot of diseases that occurred after the bombs, long term, which is very scary. Another huge part about the bombings is the psychological parts of this bombing. Here's a specialist at the Red Cross Hospital explaining what could be serious about the brain damage after these bombings.
Until now, it was believed there was no link between the radiation exposure and blood vessel-related illnesses. However, as the atomic survivors get older, many of them have suffered from heart attacks and angina. Our study shows a clear link between the amount of radiation and illnesses related to blood vessels. Most patients were children when the atomic bomb hit. For these people, they have worried about late effects of radiation since they were 10 years old. They've never had a moment of relief from the fear of being diagnosed with leukemia or cancer. Nobody can tell you that your suffering is over.
Now that we've talked about the triumph and tragedy of the bombs, let's take a moment and look at the impact. The dropping of the bombs led to the United States' victory during World War II. However, this victory came with many consequences, causing thousands of innocent people to die in the crossfire. The bombs were a triumphant accomplishment in the Department of Nuclear Warfare, and this could be seen by all other countries, starting a nuclear arms race for power. This race for power began the start of the Cold War between the United States and Russia. The Cold War lasted around 40 years, beginning at the end of World War II and lasting until December 26, 1991. The Cold War was a state of political hostility between countries characterized by threats, propaganda, and other measures of short open warfare. In particular. Of course, another impact of the atomic bomb being dropped was that the other countries did not like the fact the United States were more technologically advanced in warfare, making other countries to make nuclear weapons to prove that they can protect their own country and attack back if needed.